Alright, well, I had to take a quick break as it was starting a pretty good downpour, but that's the extension that I added because I didn't want the exhaust to build up underneath the RV. This is something I can add to kind of help it kick out to the side. Now, this has been running for several hours in here, and I'm wanting to monitor this and check on any hot spots is what I'm looking for. Now, it's hard to see, and I'll show you this in a minute, but this is just a welding mat that I'm using. This is good for up to 1800 degrees and usually a direct flame. Now, this is mainly just protecting the plastic, but this is not hot at all. As you can see, I can put my hand right here next to it. It's not burning. It's warm, sure. It actually is like a hand warmer, and all I did was make a slit in this, so it's kind of protecting the plastic port as it goes through it, just in case it bounces around a little bit like that. And even the lid, it's slightly warm, but it's not hot. And again, anything that you see here, you'll want to do this on your own at your own risk, but I'm constantly monitoring this about every 20 minutes to make sure this setup is going to work for me. Now, that's the newer EcoFlow Delta 3 Plus. That's a great little unit. You can see what it's using right now, about 30 watts. That's over 1,000 watt hours for that power station. It has dual solar inputs. Great new unit that just came out. And so that's something I would recommend, is just a slightly bigger power station. But let me show you what this looks like underneath here. So now as you look up, that's a through port that I made with a plastic extension, and then I put some ducting material around it, the aluminum tape, which I've already used that for several hours already with the other diesel heater. But as we take a look at fuel, okay, so I filled this up to about 60%, and it's been running about 4 hours since I started, so we'll just kind of take a peek. And I've been running between 9 and 8 as far as the settings. So now as we look, so what is that, maybe 40%, 35% from where it was about there, around 60 maybe. So far that's not too bad. I'll have to do another video later as I get some more runtime with this, as I usually like to try to do updates on products I use about 2 or 3 months later. And since we are going into winter and I have a couple trips that will be coming up, I'll get some use time with this. But one of the benefits of having it in here is it helps heat up this section where also my water lines are back over there, so they won't freeze. Now, I still may have to use the furnace if it gets really cold, but I also put a thermometer in here so we can look at the data from over the last 4.5 hours. So here's, you take a look at about 12:45, I ended up resetting this. So you can see that the relative humidity inside that particular cabin starts to go down, and also the temperature now starts to go up. So you can see as we started in the low or upper 50s and then into the 60s, this particular compartment ended up reaching a peak of 70 degrees. And you can see the dips, that's where I would open the door. But as we head inside the RV, this is where I have the air coming out. This is underneath the steps, and I took that vent plate off and flipped it around upside down so the air blows up. I sealed both of those off underneath the stairs as they were blowing lots of cold air in from that storage compartment. And this is not a return area for your RV. There's so many leaks that your air or your furnace is going to get plenty of air. Now, this is where I ended up putting a temp tracker, is right in the center of my bed, just sitting on top of this fan. This is so I can monitor what the temperature was doing inside this room, and sometimes in the winter I will leave that slide in to help maintain more control of the air temperature. Now you can see again where that dip is on the temperature up top. That is where it started, and I ended up letting this run for several hours, and you can see it ended up getting very warm in here, and also the humidity levels also dipped a lot. So it just gives us a little information to go off of. As soon as you get this out of the box, this is what you'll see is the main diesel heater unit along with the AC to DC converter and your DC power cord with ring terminals. I did buy a 12-volt socket so I could use this instead, which is more efficient. You will have your main blower hose along with a vent that does swivel. This is so you can permanently mount this somewhere, along with your intake tube and filter, along with the exhaust hose and the muffler with some clamps as well, and also some bracket mounts, a remote, and your manual. On the front of the diesel heater, you'll have your intake port and also your AC or DC connection point. This will then power up the unit, which you can then go through to display, but this will have to be powered on in order for you to make some adjustments. On the side of the unit, you'll have two tabs up top, which this will open the side. This then gives you access to the new 1.6 gallon fuel tank, which is larger than the previous version. If you need more access or more room to service this, it does have two pins, which you can pull both of these out and then remove the door entirely, which which this gives you more access for room to work on it if you need to, and this is built actually really well as it does have insulation around the exhaust pipe. It does have this rubber isolator right on the fuel pump, which the ticking on this model is substantially less than the other one. On the backside is where you'll find your heat outlet and also the exhaust. Okay, before we get to some of the testing, we're going to go over some of the things I don't like right away. Now, one thing that is cool though is that they do provide the AC to DC converter in both of these models. So this is a nice thing to have. That way you have the option of either doing a full DC hookup or the converter, but these do take a little bit more power. So if this is only using maybe 20 watts, this will use 25 to 30 if you were to compare it on an equal power station, plus the AC to DC conversion loss that you will have with a power station. So then you kind of get a little bit double, which is nice to be able to just use one of these 12-volt sockets and go directly in, as long as your power station or the diesel heater you buy can actually run off of one of these. Not all diesel heaters can. Some of them use too much watts, and if they're too inefficient, then you can't use them. But overall, when it comes to using this one, even the screen on this one is a lot better. And again, I didn't use the screen that much because the app was so good. I pretty much just used that one. And when you turn these on, you don't typically mess with them too much. And this one also has the ability to go up into high altitudes. There is a setting for it from 3,000 to 5,000 meters, which is extremely high. That's over 10,000 feet, by the way, which for me personally, I won't ever really be going up that high. Most of the altitudes I go to are around 8,000 and below. Now, one of the benefits of this tank though is that they did put the drain right on the bottom, so you pretty much get the most amount of runtime. They did, at the top of your fuel cap, add a fuel strainer. Now, even though this fuel strainer can block some debris, it's still going to let some of the finer particles pass by, which for me, I will probably add a pancake filter, much like I did with this one when I first got it. The pancake filters are super cheap and they're really easy to install. Both of these do come with a remote, just so you know, so you can control these, and these do work pretty good. The app function on this one works a lot better. The app on this one is okay, it does the job, but the app controls on this one is so much better, and it worked perfectly inside my RV and from several feet away,